Jai Hind all. Now, amidst all the criticism the US president has been throwing on India, the tariff war that he has been waging against India, there is something unexpected that comes from the US president for India. And he now has been praising India for the election system in India. So, yesterday, the US president took to Truth Social and he wrote something that caught everyone's attention. He praised India's election system and he said that 646 million voters, less than 1% postal ballots, okay, but every single voter has a valid photo ID card. Now he says that America also needs to pass the Save America Act now. Now, what is the Save America Act? It is Safeguard American Voters Eligibility Act. Now, after the statement of the US president, within hours, the US ambassador to India, Sergio Gore, had also amplified the same message, and he says that President Trump is absolutely correct when he says that 646 million voters and every single one voter in India is required to have a photo ID card in India's conducted elections recently. Now, there is a bigger question to this. Is this comparison that is being initiated by the US president a valid comparison, or is Trump using India as a political tool to push any of his agenda? So, whatever US president says, okay, it is something that at times people feel is an impulsive feeling. But let us deep dive into this and let us find out what essentially are the implications or what all are the different interpretations of the message given by the US president. So the bigger question is that what Trump said and what essentially was the trigger here. So, according to US President Trump, the India's Chief Election Commissioner recently, India's Chief Election Commissioner Gyanesh Kumar, okay, he recently met with the Trump administration earlier in August, and he asked a very simple question to the US administration. That question essentially became a very powerful question, and the Indian Chief Election Commissioner Gyanesh Kumar had asked that how can you have elections in US without a photo ID? Now, whether the Chief Election Commissioner asked this question or whether Trump is using his name for political effect, that in itself is a debate. But what is more important is what something that had followed. Now, Trump took this question and he started running with it. Okay. Now, yesterday he posted a message on Truth Social. Okay, and he says that India's last election had 646 million voters, less than 1% voted by mail, and every single voter had to have a valid photo ID document. Now, we need to pass the Save America Act now, and this has been said by the US president. Okay, now within hours of him saying this, the US ambassador to India, Sergio Gore, okay, who had met Gyanesh Kumar in New Delhi, okay, last week to discuss the cooperation in the election management in the US, he also posted on the X and he says that President Donald Trump is absolutely correct when he says that 646 million voters and everyone is required to have a photo ID proof. Now, this all in itself is not a casual comment. This is something that reflects a coordinated message, and wherein the US president is seen to have been using India as a powerful example to build a momentum for the Save America Act. But what exactly is this Save America Act? Let us now see it. Okay. Now, the Save American Act that is being pushed by the Trump government, okay, it stands for Safeguard America's Voter Eligibility Act. Now, this is a federal bill that is proposed by the Republican government to implement stricter voter registration rules across the United States. Now, this act has got three key provisions. First is mandatory valid photo ID to register for federal elections. Next, proof of US citizenship required for voter registration, and no mail-in ballots except illness, disability, military, or in the cases of travel. Clear? So these are the key points. Okay, and White House has put it very, very bluntly. He says that they are saying that requirement for valid photo ID should be something that no American should oppose. And the administration has been conveying this very clearly, that if you want to register to vote in the United States, you have to have the US citizenship. Now, this is something that is being pushed, but here comes the political reality. Now, this bill was recently passed in the House of Representatives, okay, and this bill was passed with a very thin majority, 218 to 213 votes. But the Senate is altogether a different story. Now, in the US Senate, the Republicans are holding close to 53 seats. Democrats and the independents are holding 47 seats. Now, to break or to have majority, to break into the majority, you need to have 60 votes. So, this SAVE Act is currently stuck. Okay, and that is exactly why Trump is using India as an example to create a pressure in the Senate. Okay, now if we have to understand why he has been using India as an example, okay, so let us see into this. Okay, so if we study the Indian example, okay, so in India we have the photo ID card. Okay, so we have the mandatory photo ID card plus 12 more alternatives we have. Okay, so every voter in India must have an EPIC card. Okay, or one of the 12 alternative photo documents like the passport, driving license, PAN card, Aadhaar, bank account, anything. Okay, but in the US, it is more like a patchwork. Okay, now in the US, why do I say that it is more like a patchwork? Okay, because US is a federal state. Okay, now 36 states, they require some form of identification at the polls. Okay, but the remaining 14 states and the Washington DC has been using different methods. They have been using signatures, provisional ballots, affidavits. Okay, during the elections. Second, in India, mail voting. Okay, and it is for less than 1%, and it is restricted for different categories in India. Okay, so in India, if we see, okay, postal ballots are strictly limited to certain categories like the military personnel, the in-service voters, the election commission staff, the senior citizens above 85 years of age, people with disabilities, and those who have been under preventive detention. So this is somewhere less than 1%. Okay, and this is the data that had participated in 2024 election. But in the US, about 30% of the people have been using this. Clear? So this is a massive difference, and there is a lot of liberty that has been given in the US. Third is the scale of elections. Now, in India, we have got 646 million voters in India, whereas in US, it is anywhere around 150, 160 million. Clear? So, we can see that the analogy, okay, does not suit well. Okay, next comes the central authority. Now, in India, it is only one election commission of India that has been conducting elections at the union as well as at the state level. But in the US, we have the 50 different state systems that have been conducting the elections. So, US has 50 different states. Each state has got its own rules, its own systems, and they have their own verification methods while conducting the elections. Clear? So, now here we are talking about a very powerful point. Okay, but while taking cue from Indian elections, we must also understand that the comparison is highly flawed in this case. Clear? Now, if we talk about the political reality, okay, so when we talk about the political reality, okay, this is the place wherein the entire discussion gets very interesting. Okay, now in America, the voter ID is not a technical issue, but it is a party based battlefield. Okay, Now, what does Republicans says? Now, Republicans have been arguing, okay, that stricter ID requirement and proof of citizenship will prevent fraud and it will build trust in the electoral system. On the other hand, the Democrats have been saying that the compulsory voter ID will be a form of voter suppression and it will disproportionately affect minorities, elderly, students, the low income communities, and married women who have changed their names. But the reality that is stuck here is the non citizens. Okay. Now, non citizen voting is already illegal in the US and it is also extremely rare. Now, this SAVE Act, okay, when it comes into play, it is solving a problem that is hardly existing. Okay, while potentially it will defranchise millions of eligible voters. Now, if we have to look at the math with which the bill has been passed, okay, the bill was passed by 218 votes in favor and 213 against, which is a very, very thin majority. Now, in the US Senate, the Republicans hold 53 seats, Democrats and independents have 47. Now, in order to win, you need to have 60. Clear? So, that is, uh, uh, currently, if we see, okay, it is a 7 vote gap. Okay, and that is exactly why Trump is using India to build the pressure upon the Senate. Okay, now, if we have a look at the previous statements of the US President Trump, now, Trump had previously said, okay, that at the time Donald Trump had posted that John Thune should not allow the US Senate to leave town until it passes the Save America Act for better, okay, or till the differences are terminated. So, if we closely look into this, okay, India is not just an example. By using India's example, Trump is trying to make it a weapon in a political battle. Clear? Now, when we compare or when we take India's example, why do I say that it is a flawed example? Okay. Now, this Indian analogy does not fill up. Okay. It does not hold up. Now, we have seen that this comparison, okay, so this transatlantic comparison may be politically convenient for Trump, okay, but it is a misfit. Okay, now, why it is a misfit? First and foremost, India has one election system. Okay, there is one commission. Okay, we have a unified electoral roll. We have a national framework. Okay, and the Election Commission of India is a constitutional body that is overseeing elections in the country. Okay, but in comparison to this, US has got 50 different systems. Okay, then we have a unified electoral roll in India that we have seen. Okay, now we have got the photo identity card. India created this epic because millions of Indians have no other photo identification. Okay, but to make things more easier, we have been using epic plus 12 other alternative cards, alternative documents while an individual is going to vote. Now, US, in contrast to this, has widespread driver's licenses and social security numbers. Okay. So the problem is not the lack of ID in US, it is the political disagreement over making it compulsory, over making it mandatory. Okay. Third and the most crucial point here, okay, is that India's system verifies identity of an individual and not the citizenship. So at the polling booth, when an individual is going, okay, the epic plus 12 other cards, they are just identifying the identity, they are just matching the identity, okay, and they are not establishing citizenship. Clear? But when Trump is saying that vote like India, he is ignoring the fundamental differences in how the two countries are structured. Okay, so India's structure was essentially built for India. Okay, and it was not planned for conditions like the US. Okay, now when we talk about the Indian reaction, okay, now how India has been reacting to this, okay, so the Chief Election Commissioner Gyanesh Kumar, okay, he had met, okay, Sergio Gore last week to discuss Indian cooperation in the election management and training of election officials. Okay. Second, when we talk about the US endorsement, so Ambassador Sergio Gore had posted on X that Trump is absolutely correct when he says 646 million voters and everyone is required to have the photo ID proof. Okay. Now, in this, he has also been portraying himself shaking hands with the chief election commissioner. Okay. Now, in India, we have got different connotations to this, okay? Because in India, the opposition has been repeatedly saying that the chief election commissioner and the electronic voting machine or the entire election system is being manipulated to support the government, okay? So we can overall, if we see this, we will find that Trump is praising India's system as a global model, while Indians, okay, the opposition party is questioning the integrity of this model in India. Okay, so ultimately we can see that why Trump is pushing this model. Okay, so even though these systems are fundamentally different, okay, and copying India's photo ID rule might look easier. Okay, now, now for considering the America's federal structure, this is something that might look easy, but doing it would be difficult. Okay, but why Trump is pushing all into it? First and foremost, the political message. Okay, now the argument is very simple and powerful. If India can do it with 646 million voters, why can't US do it with 150 million? So it is a slogan that resonates with the ultimate base of the message. That is the political message that he is trying to deliver. Next is election integrity narrative. Okay, so Trump has been running an election integrity campaign since 2020. Now the Save America Act is key part of that narrative that he has set up. Okay, and with the midterms approaching, he wants to keep this issue in the headlines, and this is the reason why he has been taking up or he has been quoting India. Okay, third, simple, powerful, and the talking point. Now he has been using successfully. He has been using the example of the world's largest democracy, and by saying so, he says that if India can pull off this, okay, then it is a powerful example that US must also adopt. Okay, but this comparison is, even though it looks politically useful, but it is a misfit. Okay, elections in two different countries are conducted in an entirely different manner. Okay, so in India, we need to understand that the photo ID card is establishing identity and not citizenship. Okay, and whereas the US requirements are entirely different. Okay, so the Trump wants the US to vote like India, and he has been using this Indian example. Okay, but he also needs to understand, or when we are politically analyzing it, we need to understand that this system was built for India and not for the US. Okay, and the primary reasons are that India has a centralized election system, whereas America has a federal system. Okay, so America already has got widespread identification. Okay, and the entire debate is about making it mandatory. So the bigger question is not whether Indian system is a good system or not. The question is whether America's system can become like India's or not. Okay, so do let me know what all are your views on this. Okay, and do let me know what do you feel or what do you interpret with what President Trump has said. Okay, so thank you all for joining me in this session. Moreover, before ending it, let me remind you that the admissions are closing for the next GS Foundation batches on 20th of August, that is tomorrow. So please do not waste any moment further. Okay, and do subscribe to our courses. You need to use this code SRM Live to avail maximum discount and all benefits of our smart model of preparation. And do not forget to scan this QR code and gain access to my Telegram channel, wherein I'll share all important current affairs PDFs as well as all important information regarding the exam. Clear? So this was all from my side today. We'll see you all in the next session. Jai Hind.